Every chapter of history begins with a single action. Yours can begin with a like and a subscribe. Join us and step into the stories the world tried to forget.
Some men spend their whole lives on the surface, and then there are the ones who choose to go deeper, far deeper than any sane person should. Robert Marks was one of those men. Marine, explorer, underwater archaeologist. He uncovered shipwrecks lost for centuries. He challenged governments, survived accidents, and pushed his body far beyond its limits. To some, he was a visionary. To others, a dangerous troublemaker. But one thing is undeniable. Robert Marks changed what we know about the world beneath the waves. This is the real story of a man who dedicated his entire life to the silence of the deep and paid a price that few would ever dare to pay.
They say the bottom of the ocean is the greatest graveyard on Earth. Millions of lives, billions of objects, centuries of memories lost in absolute darkness. But there are men who dare or are reckless enough to confront that silence. Among them, one name stands out: Robert F. Marks, Marine, diver, explorer, underwater archaeologist. To some, a visionary genius, to others, a dangerous troublemaker. But everyone agrees on one thing. Robert Marks reshaped what we know about the world beneath the waves. This is not the story of a single dive. It's the story of an entire life spent going deeper, physically, historically, and personally.
Robert Marks was born in 1936 in Indianapolis, a place almost symbolic for how far it was from the sea. No beaches, no ships, no ocean anywhere in sight. Yet at age 13, during a family trip, he put on a mask and took his first dive, and never came back to the surface, metaphorically speaking. At 19, he lied about his age to join the U.S. Marines. He became a military diver, one of the toughest forms of training available at the time. And during one of those dives, he found his first shipwreck. That day, he told a friend, "History isn't in books. History is underwater."
The 1950s and 60s were the dawn of underwater archaeology. Technology was evolving quickly. Scuba gear was becoming lighter, safer, more accessible, and countless wrecks from ancient civilizations, colonial wars, and global trade routes lay untouched at the bottom of the sea. Marks dove into this new frontier with obsessive passion. Over the next decades, he would discover over 200 shipwrecks, more than almost any other explorer in history. Roman vessels, Portuguese caravels, Spanish galleons, pirate ships, colonial trading routes. Each dive was a lesson, each wreck a chapter of human history.
In 1622, the Spanish treasure fleet, carrying tons of gold, silver, and emeralds, was struck by a hurricane off the coast of Florida. One of those ships would become legendary, Nuestra Señora de Atocha. In 1962, Marks traveled to Seville, Spain, to study original 17th century records. He spent months inside the Archive of the Indies, copying maps, survivor testimonies, coordinates, and cargo lists. It was there that he became one of the first researchers to reconstruct the fleet's final route.
Around that same time, another man entered the scene,
Mel Fisher, a charismatic Californian treasure hunter. For a short period, Marks and Fisher exchanged information, but they were polar opposites. Fisher was bold, energetic, believing in destiny. Marks was methodical, skeptical, driven by documents. It didn't take long for the partnership to collapse. The search for the Atocha turned into a rivalry.
In 1985, after decades of searching, Mel Fisher found the Atocha. Overnight, he became a legend. Marks watched the discovery on television. He didn't complain, he didn't react publicly, but he knew one thing. The Atocha was only one ship in a much larger story, and he still had work to do.
After the Atocha, Marks could have retired. Instead, he doubled down. And what he found over the next decades would rewrite maritime history. Among his discoveries, one of the largest Roman warship sites ever found, off the coast of Italy. Multiple Portuguese shipwrecks from the age of exploration, crucial for mapping 16th century trade. Colonial-era wrecks in Brazil, shedding light on the Atlantic slave economy. A French fleet lost in the Caribbean rediscovered after centuries. Marks was reshaping the known map of underwater archaeology.
But history is not only about discoveries, it's about conflict, and Marks generated plenty of it. He spoke openly against government corruption and heritage protection. He accused museums of hiding artifacts instead of preserving them. He criticized academic institutions for gatekeeping knowledge, and he did all that publicly, loudly, and in multiple languages. As a result, Marks was banned from working in Brazil for years after a dispute with the military government. He was expelled from a French excavation site, investigated in Italy, sued more than once in the United States. Admired by some, feared by others. But he never backed down. Decades of deep diving came with consequences. Decompression injuries, chronic pain, joint degeneration, surgeries. But Marks kept diving, even when doctors told him to stop, because the ocean wasn't just his work, it was the only place where his mind found silence.
Marks once said, "The sea gave me everything, and it took a lot in return." It took his health, friendships, relationships, opportunities, but never his purpose. Over the course of his life, Robert Marks wrote more than 60 books. His research helped preserve countless underwater sites. His discoveries filled museums across 4 continents, and his methods influenced a generation of underwater archaeologists. His legacy isn't gold, it's knowledge.
Robert F. Marks died in 2019 at the age of 82. He died without riches, but left behind a legacy that no treasure could match. He proved that sometimes the true reward isn't what you find underwater, but what you learn about yourself in the process. Some men spend their lives on the surface. Robert Marks spent his life going deeper and deeper into the ocean, into history, into obsession. And because of that, maritime archaeology will never be the same. He was a man who dove too deep and changed the world because of it.